Welcome back to the elephant in the room. If you've been here before, then I would like to welcome you home. If this is your first time here, then I'm really glad you found your way to this space. This is the kind of podcast where we talk about the things people usually keep tucked away. The struggles, the doubts, the hard questions, and the uncomfortable truths that church culture doesn't always make room for. And we talk about them honestly, with scripture underneath it all. So if you're ready to get rid of your elephants in the room, then as I said before, I'm glad you found your way to this space. But if you have a made-up mind that you're going to hold on to your elephants, then you might not want to listen to this show. My name is Pastor James, and this is The Elephant in the Room. Before the house was good and woke, Big Mama was already in that kitchen. Her robe was tied up, silver hair tucked under her scarf. House shoes sliding across the floor. The Bible was sitting open beside her coffee cup. And that cast iron skillet, her favorite skillet, was warming on the stove. I mean, you could smell the morning before you even open your eyes. You could smell the biscuits, the grits, bacon, coffee, and whatever else Big Mama had going on. Big Mama, she was more than just somebody's grandmother. Big Mama was a memory. Big Mama, she was routine. She was warning, she was comfort, she was correction. She was the one who could look at you and know something was off before you even said a word. This episode is about what families lost when that kind of presence moved out the center of the home, and how that loss has touched the stability, growth, and preparation of a whole generation. My name is Pastor James. This is The Elephant in the Room, and my episode today is What Happened to Big Mama? What happened to Big Mama? I'm sure everybody had a Big Mama in their family. I remember my Big Mama on my father's side of the family, and I remember who was in the role of Big Mama on my mother's side of the family. But, I want to make this clear before we go any further. Big Mama wasn't perfect at all, but Big Mama was always there. Big Mama's kitchen was her counseling center. Big Mama's classroom was the porch. You can always see Big Mama sitting on the porch, giving us some kind of lesson of some sort. Her kitchen table was where we learned how to talk. You didn't talk over dinner at Big Mama's table, because if you're talking, there was no room for food to be getting in your mouth. So no, the only thing that was going on was you was eating. You learned how to respect people at Big Mama's table. You learned how to wait. You learned how to share if somebody asked you to pass something. You didn't question why, you just did it. You learned how to listen, and you definitely learned how to take correction from Big Mama without feeling like you was thrown away. Big Mama always had that way of correcting you and making you feel love in the midst of her correction. In Proverbs chapter 31, verse 26, it says, "She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness." The law of kindness. That was Big Mama. Big Mama, she could tell you the truth and still make you feel like you was loved, like you belong. Now, listen to this, y'all. The Bible never pictured one generation raising itself. And let me explain. In Psalms chapter 78, verse 4, it says, we should pass the story on to the generation to come. And in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 6 through 7, it says, children should be taught in everyday life at home. In simple layman terms, children should not have to learn everything the hard way. If kids don't have to learn things the hard way if they're being raised as children. They need older adults, people that have already experienced what they're going through or what they're going to go through to warn them, guide them, and give them hope no matter what they're going through. And that was the important role of Big Mama. That was her role. When people say babies are raising babies, that's a comment, a phrase that shouldn't be used to shame somebody. My first son was born. I was 17. I was 17. 5 days after LJ was born, March 13th, 1982. 5 days later, I was in the Marine Corps in boot camp. But listen, going to boot camp and coming back home after boot camp, it didn't prepare me to be a father. I was still a teenager when I came back home. So, I know that there's many young kids out there that's stepping into adult responsibilities. But that is not enough time to give kids an opportunity to learn how to be an adult. They need mentoring. Kids need mentoring. How can a child raise a child without being properly mentored, without understanding what true stability is, without the ability to stand on their own? In this country that we live in 2024. Now, I was looking at these numbers. I wanted to bring them out, but I was looking at them and they did go down. In 2024, the teen birth rate was about 12.7 birth for every 1,000 girls between the ages of 15 to 19 years old. About 12.7. I dug and found some statistics, some stats that was back to when my mother was a 15-year-old girl, and the stats then was out of this world. It was roughly about 50.7% of every 1,000 girls between the age of 15 to 19 having babies. That means that teen birth during that time, from the 1940s to now, has dropped tremendously. But it don't take away the spiritual ramifications behind that stat right there. Because behind that stat of 2024 through 1958, the stat that I found was 1958. From that period of time, that don't take away the spiritual ramifications behind teen pregnancy and young mothers kids being born to young mothers. Young parents who don't understand what's going on in the world are scared. A lot of times they're tired and they're trying to grow up while raising a child. That number is crazy. And even at 12.7%, that is still a very, very high number. Now, I was looking at another thing, and some more numbers I want to throw at y'all before we get back to the spiritual part of this podcast. Big Mama, those that are still playing or in the role of Big Mama, I found some stats that said in 2021, about 6.7 million adults at the age of 30 and older were still living in the same home as their grandchildren. Did you hear what I just said? In 2021, about 6.7 million adults age 30 and older were still living in the same home as their grandchildren. So you got 30-year-old mothers and possibly 55-year-old grandmothers. And then you got the 30-year-old that is having children. Multi-generations living all under one roof. Listen to this. 1 out of every 3 of those grandparents are not just visiting or helping their grandchildren or great-grandchildren. They're responsible for the day-to-day care of those grandchildren. It wasn't intended. God didn't intend it to be like that. He didn't intend for multi-generations on top of multi-generations on top of multi-generations to be living in one domicile and the sole responsibility be on that one woman. I found some more stats, and I'm going to shoot some stats out every now and then. In 2024, an agency by the name of Kid Count Nonprofit gave some estimated stats that said about 2.5 million children in the United States. That's a lot. 2.5 million children in the United States are being cared for by their grandparents or their great grandparents. I don't know what's going on with my mouth. My mouth seems like it want to say. The problem really is that I'm getting blown away by these numbers that I'm reading off to you guys or that I'm presenting to you guys. 2.5 million children are being raised by either grandparents or great grandparents. And to put that simply, those stats right there, they don't show up at the grocery store. Those stats don't show up on the school forms or the doctor appointments. My mother is always going here and there, taking my great nephew, her great grandson, to some type of appointment. I mean, it's a continual thing. And these stats, it don't show up in diapers. It don't show up in homework. And it definitely don't show up on the retirement check. When you living on a fixed income, you retired, you've done your thing, and you retired, but you living on a fixed income, and you got several generations of people, children, living with you, that's going to put a strain on your economic ability to do. It's going to put a strain on your groceries. That's going to put a strain on your electricity. TV's on 24/7. Might be a television in every room. You might have 3 extra grandchildren living with you. And everybody got their own room. And everybody got a television on. I mean, these things is the things that don't show up in these stats. But somebody got to take the responsibility for the child that is brought into this world. He didn't ask to come in. She didn't ask to come in. So somebody got to take responsibility for that, right? Isaiah 46:4 says, even to your old age, I am he. I will carry you. So families and communities have to ask a very serious question. Are we helping Big Mama? For those that still have Big Mamas, are we helping Big Mama in the small village that she is in? Listen to this, y'all. This is I guess the reason why I'm so excited about this and is because this is dire to me because I'm living it right now. I'm in the midst of this. I'm living it, and I want so desperately to be able to address it to where it's addressed in love. One of the things that as I was preparing for this is when the center of the family shift, what happens to the family? There is no longer a clear elder center in no families at all. I mean, who is legitimately the elder of that family? What happened to that respect and that love and that honor that was there for that big mama? There's no clear cut of big mamas on in social network. And I'm not trying to. I'm not. I'm not. I don't want this to sound like I'm banging on moms, because I'm not. I'm not banging on mothers. But in social, Facebook, YouTube, all these different sites, you can see postings of 3 generations of women together, and they all look fairly young, fairly attractive. And then you'll have a hitting grandmother, mother, granddaughter, or mother, daughter, and so on and so forth. It's cute and all, but the ramifications behind that and the spiritual ramifications behind that, what's happening really? You can have, and I want to put it plainly, you can have a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter all moving through the same social spaces, dealing with the same type of healing from the same kind of hurt, looking for the same kind of attention, and trying to figure themselves out all at the same time. So basically, what it's saying is you're going to have a grandmother looking for a relationship, a mother, looking for manly kinship, and a daughter looking for that same thing, all in these same social spaces. But the issue is much deeper than that, and this issue is what nobody don't really want to hold on to and claim. This is the Pew Research Center found that 59.7 million Americans were living in multi-generational homes in 2021. Multi-generational homes in 2021. That's deep. Listen to this. In 1971, 18%. That was the number oh my God. In 1971, 18% of the country lived in multi-generational homes in 1971. Some time ago, when I was preparing for a sermon, I was doing looking at some statistical notes on the separation of man from the Garden of Eden, and I looked at how where we got further and further away from the garden, we got further and further away from the things of God. And when you had Big Mama there in the presence, in the midst, she always solidified things through the Word of God. And she passed that on down from generation to generation to generation to generation. Well, that's not happening no more. It may be happening in some remote areas, but when you see a figure like this, 2021, 59.7 million Americans were living in multi-generational homes. And in 1971, that same number was 18% of the country. That's staggering. That's very staggering. Listen to this. Look at this right here. The Census Bureau reported that 8% of children under 18 lived in their grandparents' home. 8% of children under the age of 18 lived with their grandparents. And 16% of those very same children were still living in poverty. So, yes, generations may be living together in one home. They may all be there multi-generationally, but that don't automatically mean that children are getting clear direction, are receiving steady discipline, or even have a settled voice in the house, where you look at the great-grandmother and the great-grandmother wearing a skirt shorter than the grandmother, and the grandmother's skirt is shorter than the daughter's. And the daughter's skirt might be shorter than her child's skirt. I mean, this is something that is very staggering, but it's also very spiritual. And we need to look at this thing. Kids are losing the gift of a settled voice. When Big Mama was there in the house, and if Big Mama says something, you better not do nothing outside of what Big Mama tell you to do. If you think you're going to do something outside of the will of Big Mama, you got a problem. You got a problem. And we're not even talking about the Papa. We're not even talking about him yet. We're talking about Big Mama. Psalms 127:3 says this: children are an heritage of the Lord. But if we honor the gift, we got to honor the responsibility too. If we honor the gift, we got to honor the responsibility. So if God give me a child and I don't honor the responsibility of raising that child properly, I'm outside the will of God. I'm outside the will of God. Grace cannot turn neglect around, and grace cannot give us accountability for cruelty. Galatians chapter 6 says this: bear ye one another's burdens, and every man shall bear his own burden. That simply means that families who love one another, who support one another, they can address family wrongs and support one another in love without being hurtful, without crushing one another, without being mean spirit to one another. So, nostalgically, yes, I would love to see Big Mama back in her place, in her rightful place in the house, where, as it says in Proverbs, that a woman, a true woman, virtual woman, rise early in the morning, and she prepareth the day, the house for those. I'm paraphrasing. So, if you still got a Big Mama in your presence, love on her. If you still have access to Big Mama, bring her a meal. If your Big Mama is still in your life, offer her a ride. Pick her up someday and just take her out to lunch. If your Big Mama is still in your life, don't send your kids over there to her home to babysit. Go with your kids and sit at the table, the very same table that your Big Mama set you at and taught you manners, taught you when you should and shouldn't speak. We got to bring Big Mama back to save the entire whole village. But we cannot allow Big Mama to be working herself in the ground. Yes, Big Mama is very vital. Yes, Big Mama is very important. And maybe the real Big Mamas didn't vanish. Maybe she just got tired. Maybe the village that Big Mama was in got a tad quiet. But God is a redeemer. And if we believe in God and His Word, He said that I will give you an opportunity to start again. So, let your elders teach. Let the young listen. Let parents get support. Let grandparents rest in my God. If there is great-grandparents, let them rest as well. And let children be covered. Bring us back to the table. Not to make the past sound perfect, but to recover what helped families grow. Presence, wisdom, correction, compassion, responsibility, and strong love. Strong love is enough to build another generation. Right now, my heart feels really light. My name is Pastor James, and this is the elephant in the room. Remember this: Big Mama didn't just feed families. Big Mama helped form families. And if we bring that wisdom back to the table, we can still build something whole again. I yet believe. I yet believe. My name is Pastor James, and this has been the elephant in the room. If your big mama is around, go give her a hug and kiss her on the cheek and let her know that you love her. Until next time, when we have a chance to sit and talk again, let God lead and you follow. Peace.